And we are live on the Gamification Revolution. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Gabe Zickerman. Welcome back. Hello again. Hi. Howdy. It's been a while since we've seen you. It's been a few weeks. We've been off for GSummit and we're back, and it is a sunny, warm day in New York. And I am joined today by somebody who many of you who've been at GSummit or communicated with us about GSummit have known, and seen on stage and seen if you've watched the videos, but maybe you haven't met in person. Kevin Shane, who's the director of GSummit. Hi.
Hello. Thanks for having me on today. It's so good to see
Oh.
you, Gabe.
Kevin and I work together every day, so he's pulling your leg
I'm literally
about it being
facing
nice
him
to
right
see
now.
me. Well, it's nice to see me no matter what, though, right? And it's nice to see you, Kevin. You and I are seeing each other, and all is good.
So
Um, so those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome. You'll need to log into Spreecast with one of your social networking accounts. You'll need to use one of your social networking accounts and log in and click the login button, and then you can use that profile to actually ask questions, join us in the chat with everybody. You can even come on screen, actually, if you have a video camera, and Mac will bring you on screen so you can ask us questions live. And welcome back to all of our regulars. It's been a long absence, and we saw some of you in person at GSummit. David and Dutch, nice to see you, and I'm sure that and Tiago and others of you will be showing up over the rest of the chat. So welcome, and thanks for taking time out from the crazy World Cup to be with us live. So one of the themes that we wanted to talk about today was actually GSummit, since it just happened not just a couple of weeks ago. So what a good time for us to actually talk about some of the different subjects and different topics. And I thought it would be great to have Kevin with us so we could talk a little bit about these. So first question actually from Pepe, which is about how the themes have shifted. And actually we have a kind of similar question from Dutch this time about how the themes are similar or different from GSummit, 2013 to 2014. And then what's going to happen in the conversation between 2014 and 2015. So Kevin, who's worked on a number of years of the show, why don't we start with you? What do you think about the main themes from this year's chat, and where do you think they're going next year?
yeah, well, I can talk about a little bit about how it was different from last year into this year and then forward. So last year we were just touching on conversations of loyalty marketing, for example. This year it was much bigger. We actually had, if you would call, like some would call it a track, in room 3 or in room 3. It was the consumer loyalty track, and there were tons of loyalty marketing talks going on. We had a lot more loyalty marketing attendees this year as well, and we were trying as well to break more into the employee engagement space and bringing more HR people into the game. And we did. We definitely brought more in. I think we still have a lot of room to move on that side, but these are directions that we want to take it even further for next year, and see these things really become important pieces of the actual event. So there will be a very distinct loyalty track and a very distinct HR track. We haven't designed GSummit 2015 yet, but we're already talking about it, and Gabe and I have been discussing it for the past couple since GSummit ended this past couple weeks ago. But definitely want to focus very much on those two pieces, as well as, of course, the gamification and design side of the entire event and what's going on in the world around us.
Well, one of the things that I observe, one of the things that I sort of notice about the trend over the years is that, a couple of years ago, most of the people who were talking about stuff at GSummit were talking about things that we were doing, things that we were going to do, ideas that they had, early concepts around GSummit, early concepts around gamification, and in some case, actually concepts around games themselves. One of our, more popular talks from last year was about HSM and how HSM was using the concepts of games to actually engage their audiences. And over the years, one of the main things that shifted in the discussion has been shifting from we're going to do this to we have done it, right? And going from, this is what we think will happen to this is what actually happened, and building a bigger and bigger case towards, what actually works and what doesn't work in some of those case studies and some of those, more tangible examples that folks have expressed. I have been, I've also been heartened. I think one of the other big shifts that happened from this year to last year, certainly as we've been going, is we obviously have brought back into the fold a number of folks who have been, involved in gamification, big thinkers in gamification, right? Who came back and joined us, and new people who came into the mix this year to talk more about some of the design principles that are very important. Jay McGonigal, who we haven't had since 2011, Amy Jo Kim, right? Also a very important designer, community. BJ Fogg, who some of you might know from Stanford. And all of them are bringing their own unique perspective on the issue of designing for engagement, right? With more data, with more ammunition, with more insight that is enabling us actually to put together a more complete picture of what that design concept looks like. And so we're doing less kind of poking around in the margins, right? And more hardcore design kind of thinking and design talks. Did you have any particular talks, Kevin, that really kind of stuck out for you, the ones that you were really most excited about?
Yeah, well, I wish I could say I saw all the talks, but I was running around, so I didn't get to see them yet. I'm still watching some of them on Fora, which everyone can watch now online at Fora.tv. But the one, of course, I saw the closings talks, which Gabe, yours was awesome, and
Thank you.
as it always is. And I did get to see Eileen Bartholomew from X Prize, which I know was also a fan favorite, but it was a great talk. I know the company pretty well, so nothing was really super surprising, but I think it was the best part of her talk was that she was letting people know what X Prize is doing. And the X Prize has, of course, been using gamification forever, so I don't think it was anything super new that they've been doing, but that was one of the talks that definitely stood out. Of course, like I said, the closing talks, it was fun having Jane back, as you mentioned, because we haven't seen her since 2011, so it was great having her back. And I do believe that she had mentioned something similar to what you said about seeing people take action versus people just talking about it and trying to figure it out. Now we're seeing a lot of case studies where they're doing versus just discussing. And then Neil's talk was, aside from the sporadic microphone issues, his talk was a lot of fun. It was great to have somebody of his stature at the event this year. So yeah, those were
Absolutely.
yeah.
It was awesome, and I actually put the link up to grab the videos from Fora.tv for folks. If you actually want to grab the videos, you can buy them now. I think they're on sale. You can get access to all those videos and watch everything that you missed. And actually, Dutch was saying something interesting, kind of in the chat. Dutch was there at the show itself, and he was saying that Jane, meaning Jane McGonigal, almost seemed like an evangelist of gamification. And I thought that was a very interesting sort of comment. And for many of you who've watched some of the traffic over the last year or two, there are some people who've been very closely aligned with gamification who sometimes have, responded negatively to certain stories about gamification, and we'll talk about another story about it in a minute. But one of those folks is Jane, who's been, I think, not always the biggest evangelist of the gamification concept, let's say over social media. And Dutch correctly points out that she was actually very, excited about what we'd done. And in a conversation that she and I had, and I don't think that she'll be upset if I share this with folks, she was going on about how the community that's built up around GSummit was so positive, and how the community that built up around GSummit was so excited and exciting and so motivated and interested in making the world a better place and using the concepts of gamification to make the world a better place, that she was really floored by what we have accomplished over the last few years bringing people together. And she said how excited she was to be reconnected with it and to participate in it again because of that enthusiasm and because of the clear investment that everyone in the room was making, the significant investment everybody in the room was making to make the world a better place and to increase engagement with gamification. And that to me was really exciting. And one of the things that I've long said to folks about the event is that you actually have to come to GSummit. You need to get connected with the folks, like the folks who are here on the Gamification Revolution, on the webinar every week. You've got to connect with the community, because once you actually understand how these people are, once you understand how we are and how the things that we're trying to do, and you can see it firsthand, a lot of the stuff that's in the hype just falls away. And you start to understand how important and meaningful this work is for everyone. Kevin, I know you have really strong feelings about the community because you've talked about it before. How do you feel about how the community has evolved and grown, and the energy of the people there at the event?
I love it. I absolutely love it. Last year was the first time we saw some real community getting put together. But this year, that community grew. I mean, when I look at the event and think about community, I see Team Whimsify, for example. That's one. They're just a part of the community, but it's amazing how much unity they have, and that's Sasha and Stephanie and Ting, Sabrina, and they grew. Like Whiskey Jack was part of that. Jose was in there. All these guys were in that, and they were. I like to say that they were a big part of the life of the event, like the life of the party. But that wasn't the only community that was there. It was just all these companies. We had an amazing high quality of attendees this year, better than any year before. Even though our attendee list pretty much stayed the same in terms of numbers last year, this year, the quality increased big time. And that community, the community factor there was amazing. We're seeing a lot of people come back to the event. We're seeing more people, just the culture of the event itself. More people just there to really just learn, to meet each other, to find out what everybody is doing. They're very open, and I think that's one big part of the success of the event and the community itself. It's just how open everybody is to learn, to talk with each other, to share ideas, to eat good food.
I absolutely agree with you on the openness and collaboration of the community. I think obviously I spend a lot of time and have spent a lot of time in the games industry over the last 15 years. And the difference in the way that we collaborate in gamification, the difference in the way that we interact it's really just night and day. And folks don't even get a chance to see all the different stuff that I get to see. But even among our kind of vendor community, like Badgel and Bunchball, which are companies that are very vigorously competing on gamification technologies. And I saw that David from P2PE talking about how his favorite is Bunchball. Bunchball and Badgel, right, been around for a long time, big supporters of the conference, supporters for many, many years. Help make GSummit a reality, but also help make the gamification industry a reality, really by supporting so many different companies and making their platforms broadly available, and also Big Door, the third B of the three Bs based out of Seattle.
5 years in a row.
5 years in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, every single one of them. And that their support, the support of our sponsors, of course, amazing. But one of the things that people don't realize is also that, we've been in a period in the gamification industry with a lot of kind of noise, right? And GSummit helps people kind of filter out that noise. The one thing that I really feel about this year, one of my kind of big senses about what's happening, it's happening both on the vendor side, so folks who help make gamification possible, but it's also happening on the end user side and also on the messaging side, is we're moving in that sort of hype cycle. We're moving in the Gartner hype cycle from the whole discussion of is this good or is it bad? Is this real or isn't it real? Though we will talk about that article in Fortune in a minute. And moving into a phase where we're really starting to actually make things happen, where we're really starting to design things and build things. And sometimes we're doing it together, sometimes we're doing it in competition, but we're learning and building from each other. Customers are moving from one platform to another, taking their learnings, trying something else out there. And actually, I think the market in this particular case in gamification is working very efficiently, and the knowledge sharing that everybody's doing at GSummit online, right, at gamification.co, all this knowledge, it's really, really accretive. It's really helping everybody, I think, learn more and understand more, right? Wouldn't you agree with that, Kevin?
Right. Absolutely. Well, Dutch, I'm reading the comments here. Dutch posted saying, "Build the playing field together," and it's spot on. I mean, that's what's going to drive this together. A competition is great for driving progress forward, to drive progress, but as far as working together, you're really going to make an industry, create an industry, and help build an industry. So I agree fully. I actually just read an article today about Tesla opening up. They did like open source patents. Basically, Elon Musk opened up his patents for free for other car companies to use. It's the same concept. I mean, it's the exact same thing. Let's share the knowledge so we can grow the industry together. And the same thing's happening right here in this place, in this space.
Yeah, and I figured, we should just shift gears for a second and talk about this. Yes, Beth is asking what's on the bottom of the T-shirt, and it's gamification. You can see that, Beth. These are the special shirts from the conference from GSummit. I have the black and red one on, which is the staff shirt, and Kevin has the blue and red one on, which was the Live Cube winners and Play for a Cause winners shirt, right? The limited edition ones.
Yep. Only
So,
25 made.
that's right. So some of you have those blue and red ones. Some of you don't. I fully expect to see them on eBay at some point soon. Shifting gears, Kevin always makes great shirts. So it's one of our more fun things about the conference. But this question from David at P2PE, responding to the popular re-suggestion that gamification is dead, and I think some are responding to this article from Fortune that got posted just right before GSummit. I just put it in the chat. Got posted right before GSummit with the headline, a really clickbaity headline. Looks like this whole gamification thing is over. And I was sort of laughing because if you read the article, you first see those articles and you just think, oh my God, another one of these. And my heart drops like, oh my God, what's happening? Because I think of this industry as, like I think of all of you as my friends and I want everybody to be successful. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened now? And, then we realize it's a clickbaity headline written about Brian Burke's book, his very good book, Gamify, which he, Brian Burke from Gartner, who gave a great keynote at GSummit, talked about him and signed his book for folks who were there. It was a great opportunity to spend time with Brian at GSummit, which was really awesome for everyone who was there. And, one of Brian's assertions has been that 80% of gamification ideas will fail. And, once you read past the clickbaity headline, the rest of the article is about success stories in gamification. Like the whole article is about success stories, except for the Marriott example, which we all know was not the best. My Marriott hotel was not the best example, and something that we probably never would have, built. Certainly not a dopamine, and that's something we would have advocated for. But in fact, the article as a whole was kind of reiterating the core concept of like make sure that you design your stuff right and make sure that you do it right so that it works. I don't think that you can really, David, I don't think that you can really engage with the discussion of is gamification dead when there are so many case studies and examples of gamification actually working. I mean, we don't only have Nike Plus, right? We have a whole range of examples. And this year, really excitingly, also from the loyalty industry, having Air Canada there, having Aeromexico there, having JetBlue there, right? Three of the most prestigious global brands in customer loyalty to absolute market champions, right? Air Canada's Aeroplan program and Aeromexico's program in their own countries, absolute market leaders without question, coming and talking definitively about the gamification efforts that they've done and how successful they've been, and what they've been able to accomplish. These are, not insignificant. And then on the employee side, having organizations like Delta, like IBM, talk about all the different things that they've done and how successful they've been and they continue to do with the things that they've done. That to me is very exciting. So I think, whenever you're talking to people, whenever you're having that dialogue about, is gamification real or isn't it real? Sometimes it's important to kind of point out to people, without being defensive, but point out to people how much of it is actually going on around them. And to wit, and this is an important lesson for all of us, you guys, it's very, very important. The first 3 or 4 years of gamification, the excitement in the market, all that stuff, was fueled to a great extent by hype. There was a lot of hype. There's a lot of media discussion. There's a lot of venture capital money flowing into it. There's a lot of like, this is going to solve all of our problems, okay? And just like the Gartner hype cycle, at some point, people will start talking about the other side of that story, how it's not living up to its expectation, right? It's an old story, this hype cycle. Right now, we're in the part of the hype cycle where we're shifting from this hype-driven discussion to the practical realities that are happening every day around us. Now, what's exciting about gamification as different, yes, this is Mike Finney pointing out, this is kind of Brian Burke's discussion, right? Brian Burke's keynote from GSummit. What's exciting about this shift, what's interesting about this shift as we move forward is that we're now in a phase, and I think GSummit 14 was our kind of crossover year, our switchover year. We are seeing gamification become more and more integrated into companies, more and more an absolute part of the way that people are doing business. It's what I talked about in my book, Gamification Revolution, and we're finally starting to see that be real and starting to see that actually be tangible. Guys like Bill Beagle at Verizon, Martin Molinar at Rabobank, and a host of other people who weren't on stage this year, but were actually at the event, from companies like Wells Fargo and USAA, across the board, Air Canada, obviously, people whose actual job is to do gamification kind of full time inside the Fortune 500, and that's what they do for a living. And those folks help power this next phase of, thing. And I think that, Beth is pointing out right here, very salient point from Beth. Anytime you have something new, people are going to talk about failures because they didn't do it right. And you got to fight that online learning is effective when it's done right. Absolutely, Beth. Just like online learning, gamification is super good when it's done right and doesn't work super well when it's done poorly. What are your thoughts about that, Kevin? Because you obviously spend a lot of time interacting with it. How do we avoid just being trapped kind of in our bubble because you and I are always around people who are, into our subject matter? How do we avoid that and make sure that we see things clearly?
There's a few ways to look at it, I guess. I mean, you can ignore all the negative chatter, right? You can fight, or you can just, like you said, just constantly show good examples and agree with some of the critics at some points too. I mean, a lot of it is like you were saying, like Beth was saying here, there's always going to be failures in no matter what. Like no matter what you do, no matter what's new, any new industry, any new style of doing things. Social media has had the same thing. If we're talking about at least like a timeline on the digital side of things. There's always bad examples of social media, like fake Twitter accounts or spam. These are all things that make anything look bad, but there's nothing that's perfect. There's nothing that always looks great and good, and there's no bad in it. So I think having people, number one, having critics are great for anything. It means people are spending time on it. And they're even if they're passionate about it in one way, or whether they like it or they're passionate about not liking it, it's great for showing that there's actually something there. It's the things that people don't talk about that you have to worry about. If they weren't talking
Right.
about it, then there may not be anything of interest, or there may not be a future for it. So I love seeing people talk trash about anything. I'm a fan, especially while there's a soccer game going on and you can see guys talking trash about each other.
Yeah, it's and Mike Finney, of course, posted the Schopenhauer quote about truth being ridiculed, opposed, and then accepted as self-evident. And we definitely are, one of those categories. All of us have been through it. We've all seen it. Whether it's one of our more intelligent critics or one of our less intelligent critics. People trying to rebrand gamification under some other umbrella, but it doesn't. None of that stuff really matters. Ultimately, the thing that we are doing, the work that the people at GSummiters are doing, the effort that they're putting in, significant, and I think it's starting to pay dividends. And that's, I think that's a really big piece of it. And Rasul asks a kind of interesting question, about the enterprise side of gamification and increasing acceptance from the enterprise side. Kevin, do you have particular insight that you want to share about how, how the attendee base has shifted maybe at GSummit and how the conversation has progressed on the side of HR and enterprise?
Yeah, well, I touched on it a little bit before, just talking about the quality of attendees. Like we saw way more Fortune 100 brands at GSummit this year. So it's obvious that the word that this topic is spreading through where it matters. Like I don't want to say where it matters. It matters wherever it is, really. But it's these guys are putting real money into it, and whether they're spending the money with the vendors, or they're spending money and bringing people in on the inside and building things internally, they're definitely putting some effort and like dollars behind everything. So I think it's spread. When you say enterprise now, do you mean like specifically on the HR? Because
Yeah,
this is a
like
word
thinking
that's been
about,
tossed around both ways.
yeah, thinking about how companies are using it. I think not on the marketing side, right? When we're thinking about it from the from the enterprise side. I'll just interject and say from my perspective, Rasul, I see the greatest growth in the gamification category has been on this side of the house. The largest number of new entrants are facing the employee community rather than actually the marketing community. And in fact, the majority of folks that I meet who have gamification kind of in their title, or for whom gamification is their primary objective, actually tend to face the employee base, which is really sort of interesting, rather than facing the customer base. I think on the marketing side, it continues to be viewed as more of a program-oriented thing to do, like more like loyalty is the project, or marketing is the project, and then gamification is a tactic inside that project area. And on the HR side, on the enterprise side, it's being used as a strategic tool to raise employee engagement or to solve engagement challenges with specific areas, whether that's internal events, whether that is training and development, which has been a really, really hot spot, right? We've also seen, a number of people in leadership development using gamification. So there's been a kind of wide range of efforts that have been made, to drive gamification forward in the enterprise. Now, as far as the,
I've got a quick question for you.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So thinking about that, and am I on? Can you guys see me okay?
You are absolutely on.
Okay, because I was spinning for a minute.
We got you back.
Thinking about the HR and the marketing side, do you think it's just it's harder to implement gamification on the HR side because of marketing specifically? You can just release rapid campaigns. You can do short-lived campaigns, whereas on the HR side, it's sometimes not that easy to test with your employee base, which are going to be fully invested, and they have to be doing it all the time, essentially. Not have to, but your goal is to try to get them engaged, but basically, from 9 to 5 or 7 to 6, whenever you work during the days. But do you think it's harder to implement something on the HR side?
I think it's both harder and easier if you think about it, right? It's harder because you usually have more hoops to jump through. You've got more employee issues. You've got more regulatory challenges typically. You've got cultural challenges. And also HR departments, even, companies with big learning and development and travel and so on, they often don't have budgets. And, the last 10 or 15 years have been very difficult on the budgets of the internally facing community to get projects off the ground. So new projects and technology is actually very hard. And plus, companies have a very large history and a very long history of implementing technology that faces employees that aren't used, right? So this is a very old story of like, we have this new major technology, it's a social business, and you put the social business tech in and nobody uses it, everyone goes back to email and Excel. And I've talked about this before. Email and Excel continue to prevent, the inertia of email and Excel continue to prevent all these different things from happening. So the internally facing organizations like HR, have real challenges because of these structural issues. However, they also have two big opportunities, and one of them is that gains in employee engagement, small gains in employee engagement, have very big effects on the bottom line. So, for example, losing one high-value engineer in Silicon Valley costs a company $500,000 when that engineer walks out the door. So even if you can keep an engineer an extra month, 1 month longer than they would have otherwise stayed, by making a work environment more engaging, it's $50,000 a month per engineer that you can keep on the job. The scale that what happens when you affect the employee base is really big. And the second piece of it is that the HR community has been made tactical or tacticized. I don't know if there's a word in there, a verb in there. They've been made tactical over the years rather than strategic. And gamification has been an opportunity that many enterprise-facing folks have seen that allow them to switch gears and turn around and become, instead of being tacticians, become strategists. Come in and say, look, I'm going to rethink the way we engage with employees. I'm going to rethink the way we do learning and development. And this is strategic, and gamification is the way we're going to do it, right? And so this has very big effects on people's careers. And anytime you create that alignment, right, between the career and the market opportunity, you produce extra energy there. So I think on the marketing side, a lot of gamification tactics are more self-evident. Gamification strategies are more part of a kind of overall edge and an overall aspect of the company's performance. But on the HR and enterprise side, it's a little bit more, it catches more attention, let's say, because it's more unusual and it's more challenging, right? And and folks are chatting here in the chat. For example, Ken is talking about how, he's kind of off. I'm guessing, Ken, from what you said, you're kind of off inside the organization, convincing senior management to buy in, right? And you've got policies and procedures issues as Dutch and Mike are talking about, and how you wrangle the organization. But once you get that buy-in, you can produce gamified systems and strategies that last a really long time. And that, I think, is very exciting. So I think they're operating at different frequencies. I think the marketing people and the HR people are operating at different frequencies. They have different challenges, but their design challenges are really similar. Their organizational challenges are different, but the design challenges are similar. And so there's a lot of stuff that they benefit from being together. And that's been one of the main visions that I've had for GSummit since the beginning, that we need to kind of keep everyone together. We've got to have the community in one place so that people can really, really learn, more and more about each other and understand from each other. So one last question from Tiago I want to take before we sign off for today, which was the most out of the box idea at GSummit, the most exciting and the thing that really was most inspiring for me, or the most interesting for me out of GSummit. Kevin, what was yours? Did you have one that really, or one or two that really struck you from the event?
Yeah, it's LiveCube. Not to give them all the glory, but it really was. I mean, it started the conversation 6 weeks before GSummit, and then it continued, and the energy kept the level up, and that's how a lot of the community actually became at the event. Because all these people, none of these people had met each other, but they all knew each other, just like on social media, but it's a much more isolated group and a tight-knit group. So that was my big thing.
And I think just vis-a-vis LiveCube, which many of you know, is livecubeapp.com. We designed it for GSummit a couple of years ago, and now it's its own company. And you've seen Aaron Price, its CEO, here on the show before. One of the things about LiveCube that I thought was really interesting, an aha moment, when Aaron was showing the stats about Twitter usage compared to LiveCube usage. And on Twitter, it's whatever, 6% of people do all the action on Twitter. 94% of people use their Twitter account once, or some crazy stat like that, and everything else is driven by 6. And LiveCube manages to get a group of people closer to 50% of people using LiveCube in some way or form. I think making social media more participatory, which is something that we really seem to have unlocked with LiveCube, I think was very exciting. I was also very excited. For me, I was very excited overall, Tiago. I was very motivated by the response of the loyalty industry who was there. We had Bill Hannafin, who's a very well-respected, very well-known loyalty industry guy. We had Jeff Barry from Colloquy there. We had Barry Kirk from Merits there, and then we had the head of Flybys. We had Air Canada, Aeromexico, JetBlue, as I mentioned. The loyalty industry is finally starting to wake up to the idea that loyalty programs need to be more fun. And we think of loyalty as this dead, broken, boring thing, but it touches billions of people around the world. It is this incredibly, incredibly integrated with our lives transactional system. It's in our credit cards, it's in our loyalty cards, it's in every store, almost every store that we're going into. We have such a relationship with loyalty, and they're finally on the cusp. I mean, this is not about me, okay, but I'm just going to make it about me for one second. They're finally on the cusp of understanding the thing that I said in my first book in game-based marketing in 2010, which is that loyalty needs to be made fun again. And they're finally getting it. It's taking them 5 years to catch up to the story. And to be fair, there were people like Bill and like Barry who understood that a long time ago. But the industry as a whole is finally starting to wake up to this idea and turn our way and say, wait a minute, oh yeah, you're right. This isn't all about free stuff. We can't afford the free stuff anymore all the time. We've got to keep people excited and engaged. We've got to use that SAPS model in a way that is more logical and more fun. And we got to bring surprise and delight and excitement and socializing, real social value into the interaction with people. That to me was super exciting, Tiago. And I'm finally starting to see that sunshine come in there. I think was a big win for me. And then I think the other thing, obviously BJ Fogg's talk, so interesting. I was also blown away by Phaedra's talk at GSummit. Phaedra Buenodiris, who some of you know who's here. She talked about the ARG that they designed for IBM. and they built a global worldwide ARG to roll out new social business ideas at IBM. The unbelievable investment that IBM made in that project. If you guys wait till you see this video, you've got to sign up and get the video. Go to gsummit.com, click on the link at the top of the page, get the video. You've got to see the investment that IBM made in this gamified learning tool to teach social business to the company is unreal and resets the bar, I think, for companies all around the world. It's not suitable for every situation. It's a very game-like approach to a problem, but it's incredible, and it reflects at a company like IBM, which is both innovative and also very stat, it reflects the kind of incredible things that people can do when they combine gamification with a business example and really invest in it. And I think we're going to see more and more organizations making an investment in that, which is very exciting. And you can get that link, David, by going to gsummit.com, and you can get the videos. Kevin Shane, Director of GSummit, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate it.
I have a couple more things, just real quick. Again, videos are online, so attendees, if you attended, you should have already gotten an email. If you attended GSummit, you should have already gotten an email from Gabe about how to access those videos. You get them for free, and then they're for sale for everyone who did not attend. The slides for the speakers are going up as we speak. There's probably about 30 of them on gamification.co. And then I'm going to share a link right now. That is the GSummit post game in LiveCube. There's some activity there. So if you want to chat with a few people about GSummit, you can jump on that as well.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Kevin. That's all awesome news. Thank you for all your hard work. Thanks to the whole team that made GSummit happen, to Ivan and Mac and Zealand and Ankit and Justin and Aaron and Andy and everybody who worked so hard on. Did I miss anybody? Did I forget anybody?
You. And thank you, because you had a nice small piece too, you know.
Sometimes I do some stuff on it, but thanks you. And thanks to all of you for joining us here on the Gamification Revolution. Nice to see you again. We'll see you next week in another episode. We'll talk more about how we're using gamification engagement to transform the world. I'm your host, Gabe Zickerman. We'll see you, and until then, you can follow me on Twitter at @gzickerman. See y'all, everyone. Keep having fun.
Later, guys.
Bye.